Welcome to a very, very, very special episode. We have my very good, very wonderful friend, Hannah Summerhill. Hannah is someone that I talked about on our 3-part Monroe series. And if you guys saw those episodes, you'll recall that she is the one that had a vision about me that like cut deep to my core with what she was saying in a meditation session. You remember this, Alex? Yeah, this is her. So welcome, Hannah Summerhill.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my friend.
Hello.
So happy to be here.
Me too. This is weird, right?
It is.
It's like, I mean, do you want to go into why it's weird?
Because we've only known each other for 3 months and we're like family at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like spending a week together at Monroe with our group. And I probably can speak for you on this, but like for me, and I said this in one of the debriefs towards the end, it was like, oh my God, I was so sad to leave because I felt like I finally met my people for the first time.
Yeah.
And don't take that the wrong way. You're my people. You know, that's why we do this.
No offense taken.
Like you and
at
Nick,
all.
You and Nick are my people. We do this, but
I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you.
it's just not often that I find like more of my, spiritual people. So
I get it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same way.
I feel so grateful. Like we're recording right before the fall equinox.
Yeah.
When I landed a couple days ago from Egypt, it was a full moon. We celebrated on our last night at Monroe the full moon on the summer solstice.
Yeah.
So this entire summer has been so impactful for me and so spiritual. And I love that we started and we're ending the summer together.
We had a similar summer because after I left Monroe, I went to Germany and Amsterdam.
Right.
And then you turned around and I guess, 3 months later, you went to Egypt.
Yeah. I went to Paris and Egypt, literally flew from Cairo to New York to Wilmington in one day.
Yeah.
And it was the most insane travel story. But I was like, I have to get to Wilmington. It was a major vibe shift because going from ancient Egypt,
Right.
and being in the pyramids and, floating
desert.
down the Nile and being in the desert of, the Sahara near the Libyan border, to then getting on a military airplane from the desert of Egypt and Siwa to Cairo, and then getting a couple hours sleep and then turning around and coming right here. And I made it.
Can we maybe put some of those photos in the episode? Would you be okay with that?
For sure.
Would
Yeah,
you be down for that? Like if she sent us some?
Happy to.
Yeah, that'd be really cool so
Yeah.
people can like see the vibe. But
Yeah.
there's one thing you forgot to say though,
Oh.
that you came the other night and we went to the beach and it was a full moon, but it was also an eclipse
Yeah.
and a super moon.
Yeah. It was a harvest moon.
Yep. And it was a full super moon on the solstice the last night of Monroe. So that's really weird, right? Like
Exactly. There's something, as we've been talking about, so cosmic and there's so much alchemy between our group at Monroe. It just felt like we had found our people. We were all meant to be there at that time. I mean, I live in Southern California. I'm from the Northeast. I lived in New York for 15 years. And what are the chances that I meet, somebody like you? You're from the South. You're deep into the UFO community,
Right.
And that's not usually an area that overlaps with the work that I do,
Yeah.
But to just meet people from all over, and then to have these deep, deep bonds with them to the point where it just feels like we definitely had past lives together. This is not our first time around. It was just it was the most special experience.
It does feel that way. It feels like everybody in that group, I mean, we all immediately clicked.
Yeah.
And, we were just talking about this downstairs right before you showed up, Alex. We were kind of, talking over the Monroe experience with Jenny. But it's like, you go to this mountain retreat in Virginia. You're isolated from the world, right? They're literally like,
Yeah.
we used to take your watch.
Yep.
But they don't anymore. It's modern times. We have smartphones. People have businesses. And they're like, but please just like forget about time. Forget about the outside world. And we're like isolated together, having these consciousness expanding experiences. And it's like we're all having these deep emotional breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Like I can't speak for you on this, but like for me, I was like really having some relief of some like deep trauma.
Yeah.
And you're in these states and everybody's together and you're getting in these like circles and debriefing your experiences, and it just feels like you are in this heightened state where I think connections form really fast.
Yeah. It felt very much guided by forces greater than us. It felt very much we were tapping into our souls. We learned that we are more than our physical bodies. And even if we knew that theoretically or believed in that before we came to Monroe, it was so it was experienced.
Yeah.
By the time that
you
we left.
experience it.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, like I had my first out of body experience there. I didn't think I was going to have an out of body. A lot of people go to Monroe to have an out of body. I didn't have pressure on it like that. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if it happens, but it probably won't. And then when it did, it was such confirmation for me that my soul is infinite. My soul remembers being able to manifest anything instantly. And if my soul is infinite, of course I've known these people through many lifetimes. Of course I'm going to connect with them. Of course I'm going to feel so much love for them because my love feels infinite. So it was very profound, and it was I'm not going to say it's been an easy summer because integrating everything has been intense.
I just can only imagine because it's only been 3 months for both of us now, but I just can see it in my mind, like your manifestation game, which we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Your manifestation game is probably going to be next level. I don't know if you've noticed this already.
100%.
You think so?
Yes. When I got back from Monroe in June, by July, I had the most abundant financially month of my business.
Wow.
I've had so much. I'm also a writer. I write for Vogue and I write for Elle, and I had, great work opportunities come through very easily. Just so many synchronicities. This Egypt trip, I really felt like, and I know Amy has said this too, like after a Monroe program, manifestation just gets supercharged.
Yeah, she did say that. And shout out Amy. We love Amy.
We love Amy.
We were all there
She's
together.
been on my podcast too.
I heard it.
Yeah.
I listened to it.
Yeah,
and it was
Manifesting
good.
Rainbows.
Yeah, it was really good. That's the one thing, like, we've all been like trying to catch up on each other's content, and I've been pretty bad about it. And admittedly, the one piece of like post creator gateway content that I have consumed is that episode. If that means anything.
Much. That actually means a lot. Thank you. Because there is a lot to consume. We're creators, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, to wrap that little intro up, it is kind of mind blowing that you're here. The other day when I picked up Chris, shout out Chris Ramsey, I picked him up from the airport on Monday, knowing you would be coming on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So I picked him up from the airport, and I was pretty stressed. I think I did tell the story on his episode, but I was stressed because I was like, I really want to get him to Fayetteville. I don't want to disappoint him, but there's been a tropical storm. And then I saw him, and I was like, we'll make the trip. I can't disappoint him. I wasn't telling him this. I was like, yeah, we'll still go. So I didn't really have that time to process like, oh my God, it's so weird that you're here. It was like, I was thinking, we got to get there and hit the road, And then as we're on the road, we start catching up and we start talking. And it was kind of weird, but it didn't really hit yet. So then you fly in the next day. Mm-hmm. Chris films with my dad, the other Chris. And the following day, the day you're flying in, and we kind of had some technical difficulties with equipment. So he ended up having to film like twice as long, and we start running late. And I, had to have Jenny come pick you up. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling so guilty. Like, oh my God, I just felt bad that like you had to come to the house and wait like 2 hours for us to get here. But you were cool about it, which I appreciate.
Oh, yeah, I got to shower, do laundry. I was like literally covered in sweat and sand from Egypt. Yeah.
After traveling for like forever from Cairo to New York to here. And you were really cool about that, and I appreciate that. And you got to meet Jenny.
Yes, who's the best.
Yeah. She is. You can see why I talked about her so much at Monroe.
Know,
they all tease me. They're like, you talk about your wife a lot. I'm like, well, you don't know her. But she's amazing.
I see why.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it really hit for me when Chris and I walked in my house and we walk upstairs and then you walk down the hallway and greeted us. Mm-hmm. I feel like my brain did a little 180. Like, oh my God, this is weird.
Yeah. It was like, first of all, wild to see you guys in person after, we've done a couple Zoom reunions, but because our bond has been so strong, it was surreal to see you guys like in the flesh, because the Monroe Institute was this bubble that's never going to be recreated again like that.
Yeah.
And there's some sadness about that, right? Because it was such a special time. But here we are trying to create something still and like stay in each other's lives and like
I think we kind of
keep the connection. I think we've done it.
Yeah. I think it's been, for me, it's been, similar. And you're right. You can never recreate that bubble. But like, that's the good thing is like we can go forward like, having new experiences. And
it can be even better.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So we have a lot to talk about concerning you, but let's start with, okay, here's how I want to kind of begin. You got invited to Monroe because you write for magazines. You write for Elle and you write for Vogue.
Yeah.
Which is super cool, by the way.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit of a synchronicity for me. I keep finding synchronicities between me and Chris, but then in the last, 2 days that you've been here, I'm also finding more about you.
Yeah.
You and me, like our connection. Mm-hmm. I have another friend who's been in Vogue.
Cool.
Which I found out recently. So you were like, yeah, I write for Vogue. I'm like, what? That's weird. That's so specific.
Yeah.
So
and you have the Vogue magazine covers, the vintage Vogue magazine covers in the bathrooms.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That would be my wife, but that's weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
She hangs whatever she wants.
Yeah.
We have a rule. She can decorate however she wants. I did not know I had Vogue magazine covers in my house. I swear to God, I don't even look.
I think that's a real common rule.
Yeah.
Around the world.
Yeah, for good husbands. Yeah. Good
well,
partners.
we have a good rule that I established, and she loves it. And it's you can decorate however you want. You can do whatever you want. In our old apartment, which you never saw, we had pink stuff everywhere, didn't we? It was like pink rugs and really feminine things on the wall. I'm like, you do what you want. I love it. We can have a feminine mansion. I don't care. Just let me have my toys. Let me have my silly lights.
Yeah.
Let me have my computer, and it works. I had no clue we had Vogue magazines on the wall. So that is even weirder.
Right.
So let's get into that. You write a Vogue article about Monroe.
It was for Elle.
Oh,
Actually,
for Elle.
It was for
Okay.
Elle.com. I had heard about the Monroe Institute through the released files from 2003. The Gateway.
Declassified or whatever.
The declassified Gateway papers. And the reason I'd heard about them was because a couple years ago, I took a manifestation course from one of my manifesting teachers, Catherine Zinkina. And she, in her course, basically said, here's all the proof of manifestation in these really prominent institutions like the government, like the world of medicine. A lot of people, they deride manifestation as fluff or, something that just girls do on TikTok. But these are practices that are ancient, they're universal, they are energetic, and they've been used by people in power for decades. So she kind of teased these papers, and I took the course maybe 4 years ago, and I just never forgot about it. And I thought this would make a great story. Like, I want to bring the kinds of things that I want to write about, obviously the things that I'm interested in, but I want to bring these ideas of manifestation to the mainstream media, which typically doesn't embrace or historically hasn't really embraced the woo-woo or things like that.
It suppressed it.
Exactly. But times are changing. The generations that are growing up that are now in charge of making the rules are very interested in a holistically spiritual life. I think the older generations, Gen X and the boomers, they were like, no, way more in the 3D. But so I read the papers, and I reached out to the Monroe Institute about a year ago, and I interviewed the marketing director, and I got to talk to some other folks, but then I pitched the story, and a lot of outlets said no. Yeah.
That's surprising.
They said no. I mean, a lot of media companies will want to publish something that is timely. They call it a news peg. So it would have to make sense. Like, did these papers just come out? Well, no, they came out like 20 years ago, at this point. Why now? But there had been some interest in the Monroe Institute and in the Gateway program on TikTok because there was this Vice article that came out in 2021. So that I think
I saw it.
Yeah, that kind of brought the Monroe Institute into the TikTok Instagram era. So eventually I pitched it and I found the right editor. Shout out to Danielle James.
Shout out Danielle James.
At L.com, who's been such a freaking supporter of me and all the cool things that I want to write about for them. But she was like, yeah, that pitch sounds super cool. Let's do it. And I was like, yes. I was so excited. So then I worked on this pitch, or I worked on this story, interviewing people from Monroe. They gave me access to a digital course. I did 4 of the meditations. It was cool, nothing like the in-person.
So you did a virtual beforehand?
I did a 4-day virtual course.
Wow,
yeah, self-paced.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And I interviewed Mallory Mackey, who is a student, a former student or current student, because I think she goes back often to the Monroe Institute. And I was just fascinated. And the goal of the piece was to say there is a lot of validity to these manifestation principles. And while the papers don't call it manifestation, they call it patterning. It's the same. We're talking about, quantum physics. We're talking about visualization. We're talking about creating from our minds.
Right.
And the government's been doing this for decades. Yeah. So this is not some silly, fluffy thing. This is something that you can use to improve your life. And let's empower the layperson with this information. If the government was using it 50 years ago, you can only imagine what they're doing now.
Right.
But this should be for everybody. This should be democratized and taken seriously and used for the good of all involved. So that was the story, and it was really well received. I got some beautiful, sweet DMs from big celebrities about the piece.
Yeah, my wife was just telling me about that when you were getting ready to record.
Yeah, so it had a great reception, and then I was invited by the Monroe Institute to come to their Creator Gateway, and I was like, absolutely. That was such an easy yes for me.
Yeah, same. That's amazing. I love your take that you're like, you want it to be free and understood, by the layperson.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about things. That's why we do this, is trying to, it's a little bit of a different take. It's like I said with Amy, right? It's like, you guys are manifestation experts. I'm, more or less a UFO paranormal guy, but it's like Amy and I were discussing it like this. You have math and science. And they're like kind of like this. They're together. It's like the same thing. It's like solving equations of the universe. Maybe one is more theoretical, one is logical, one is applied, but it's all the same thing, right? Like we're on the same team. We're doing the same thing. It just looks a little different. And that's amazing. So, yeah, I didn't know that you did a virtual before. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And, it was my first time experiencing the HemiSync audios. And I had some interesting experiences where time got wonky. I think I did a 30-minute meditation and it felt like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then another time I did a 30 meditation and it felt like 3 hours. So I was like,
wow.
There's something happening to my brain here. And usually I'm not a napper, even though I just took a nap. That's because I'm jet lagged. I'm not a napper. I don't fall asleep easily, typically. It's something I'm trying to manifest around is better sleep. And I meditate a lot. I meditate every day, but and even I've done tons of hypnoses over the years. Very rare for me to fall asleep, but something about those tones and those frequencies got me out quickly. So I was like, there's something to this for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I hit the pillow and I get hyper, and it's like, it's hard to sleep. But, and meditating, I've always been the kind of guy where meditating is tough for me, and I never thought that I'd be able to do it. I never thought that I'd be able to go out of body. I always thought it was cool, but this isn't something that I'm going to be good at. And then as you get to Monroe and you do their process and it's it's so simple.
You're like, oh my God, anybody can do this.
It's natural. Yeah. Not just anybody, but everybody.
And without psychedelics, with your own brain. It's nuts.
Based on what you said earlier, I wanted to go back to that a little bit. You said, and also, I want to go into how brilliant that is that you wrote about them from a manifestation perspective.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you said, manifestation patterning, they have a different word for it, but it's the same thing. And that's something that's brilliant about them that is they go out of their way to sort of destigmatize or, remove dogma from things, so they kind of come up with their own terminology, but they actually did teach us manifestation practices, and you're right, they call it patterning. and Alex, you might like to hear this, but while we were learning about patterning, and we did a whole manifestation drill where I think you get into Focus 15, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And they have like their take on like what you do and, you know, visualizing. And it was kind of cool because they were asking Hannah and Amy to chime in. You remember this, right? I mean, I'm sure you do better than me, but they were asking you guys to chime in and like give advice. The instructors, they were like, Hannah, Amy, please weigh in on this with your, you know, advice on manifesting. So how was that for you?
That was so cool. I felt very honored that they respected everybody's gifts that everybody was bringing to the table. And obviously manifestation has come a long way since Robert Monroe's era, like when he created these tapes. So it felt like we could contribute to evolving what the Monroe Institute is teaching about manifesting, like simplifying it, making it more fun, making it more accessible, because there's so many tools. I mean, there's so many theories. Like even Amy and I, we've talked about how different our approaches even are too. Right. They're very much based in the same principles, but we have different energies and different approaches to it. So I was really honored that the instructors let us, you know, give our 2 cents.
So let's go into manifestation.
Yay.
I have a few questions, but I also just want to give you the floor to just like go into as much detail as you want about like your practice, you know, how you do this. But my big question that I like to ask is, why is manifestation possible?
Okay. Manifestation is possible because our brains, our bodies, our thoughts, our energy, we live in a universe made of energy, and we can communicate and create with that energy.
Okay.
There's nothing that separates us from the energy of anything else. And what I learned at the Monroe Institute too, which I knew deeply or remembered, you could even say, is that before we incarnate, maybe in between lifetimes, or our higher self is experiencing this simultaneously, in the spirit realm outside the physical body, when we are more than our physical bodies, we think of things, they appear. We have a desire, it's fulfilled. Our souls remember manifestation. It's inherent to us. It's natural in the spirit realm, right? You can go see whatever you want to or need. And when I had my out-of-body experience, I instantly went to Paris because I love Paris and it's where my sister lives, and I wanted to check in on her. And it was the most blissful, exciting, ecstatic couple of seconds that I've ever physically felt. And I was like, this is my soul remembering what it's like to manifest like that. And that's why bringing manifestation into your life is like it's like you're connecting to your higher self, you're connecting to your soul, you're connecting to your other lifetimes, because this is the most natural thing in the world. It's a little bit slower of a process in the 3D because we have the density of, you know, this earthly plane.
Right.
And
there are rules we have to follow.
Right. But it's possible because it is inherent to who we are and to our souls.
Right. Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. That's when we were downstairs and we were kind of catching up, and you and Alex were chit-chatting in the kitchen. I kind of just casually laid it out there. Because he's going to Paris, you know, for his honeymoon. So we were talking about Paris. And Alex, I don't know if you caught this, but I said she's been twice recently. She went out of body and she went to Paris.
And then I went for real. I went in the 5D and then I went in the 3D.
Yeah. And then she just went on a trip to Paris. Did you visit your sister?
I did.
Good. Yeah. I know we were talking about your sister, but this morning I was so tired. It was fuzzy for my brain, but that's amazing. I like that answer. I would be very curious to hear, because also I'm shocked to hear that you've only been into manifestation for like 4 years.
Well, that's not quite true. So that's when I took the course.
Okay.
I read the book The Secret in 2007 when it came out. I saw you guys have it downstairs in your bookshelf.
Do we?
You did?
I think someone gave it to us.
Okay.
I didn't even know we had it.
I love how I'm like telling you about your own house. I'm like, this is what you have on the walls and in the bookcases.
I didn't know I had it.
Yes.
I honestly didn't.
You do. You have it. And I read that book when it came out in 2007, and I was like, this is fucking cool. And I think, you know, and I was 20 years old at the time, and I think my soul remembered. And it was all about using positive thought to bring positive things into your life.
Yeah.
Things that you want to bring into your life. And so they recommended experimenting with it, starting with a small object, thinking about a small object, feeling elevated emotions like love, gratitude, joy. Gratitude is a big one for manifesting. And I was like, okay, let me start with like a very specific Clinique lipstick. I don't know if people remember, but my mom used to wear a ton of, Clinique back in the day. Had these kind of pearly, seafoam green packaging for their lipsticks and their products. And I thought, okay, let me just try to, but I didn't wear Clinique at the time. And I was like, let me start with a Clinique lipstick. And so I remember thinking about it, visualizing it, seeing it. And then a couple days later, I opened a purse and there's one. And I was like, that was all I needed. I was like, I'm in. I'd totally buy this.
Was it your purse?
Yeah, it was my purse.
It was just in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it only gets crazier from there, right? But I used manifestation then to get some really cool internships. So at that point, I was going to college on Staten Island, and my dream was to live in Manhattan. Staten Island's a borough of New York City, and I was like, I really want to work at a magazine. Like, I want to manifest working at Vogue. I want to manifest interning at Vogue. After reading The Secret, I ended up getting like 4 amazing internships. Graduating my senior year with an internship at Vogue,
high school or college?
College,
okay.
Spending my last semester senior year at Vogue, really just in this place that I had dreamed about growing up, and I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania. I'm the oldest of 3 sisters. My way of dreaming myself out of my small town was getting these magazines, and I wouldn't let my sisters
That's awesome.
look at them until I'd read the magazine cover to cover, like credits, everything, like every single page.
I was like
every
that for
single
video
ad.
game magazines. I had video game
Yeah,
magazines.
I would just like pour over them, and they were my vision into something greater. And then by the time I get to college, I'm interning at Vogue and getting to see behind the scenes in the fashion closet and seeing celebrities come into the office every day, like Beyonce and Blake Lively and Adele, and just like a daily thing. And I'm giving Cameron Diaz chips and like seeing Giselle Bundchen on photo shoots, and it was just a dream. It was just a dream. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. How could you not believe in manifestation? I feel like that in the high success world, Alex and I talk about this quite a bit. Like when he worked for his previous job, which he's moved on to bigger and better things. But in his previous job, they would do all kinds of like corporate trainings, and you would, or maybe it was when we were at Ashley.
Yeah, it was sales. I've always, I have this plan to write this book about like spirituality and sales, because a lot of what I learned and someone's probably going to take it and run with it, and great. Yeah,
Jordan Crowder's book is called Entrepreneurial Spirits.
Yeah, I mean, it's all very similar. Like the stuff that they teach young salespeople, detachment, like, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot there that has to do with manifestation. And I got really fortunate towards the end of my time in that position. I was starting to lead meetings and stuff like that. And so I was like kind of putting a little bit of this manifestation, kind of bringing them up a little bit more positively. It was a very kind of tumultuous time, so I was trying to just like lift them up a little bit, and it worked. It was great. But yeah, lots of tie-ins in that world,
in the success world, right?
Yes.
I don't care if it's success,
large businesses,
celebrities, whatever, people who have achieved high success.
What's the thing? Millionaires don't use
astrology.
Billionaires do.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. I feel like I'm sitting here talking to you.
That.
Yeah. I think that was a quote from, was it JP Morgan?
I'll find it.
Yeah. Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And I'm sitting here talking to you about manifesting your dream job at Vogue, and I'm like, you know what? It makes sense that people in the high success world believe in manifestation, because how can you deny that there's...
You're spot on.
There's JP Morgan.
Well done.
Well, I mean, I'll be here all night, but...
That's your talent.
Yeah. Memorizing
you
facts.
You have a great memory.
Thank you.
You do, yeah.
You're a phenomenal researcher.
Well, I appreciate it. You're making me blush.
You're just great. You're just awesome.
Thank you. You guys are making me want to trot around. You know what I mean? But when we were at Monroe, I was nerding out, telling her all these esoteric things. And at one point you were like, you know what? I really like how nerdy you are. And I was like, thank you. You were like, I could just sit here and listen to you nerd about this esoteric stuff all day. And I took that as a compliment because a lot of people don't want to hear it. But I'm like, I'm at Monroe,
I mean, all of the people listening to this would disagree with you?
Well, I mean, the people I meet in ordinary life.
I gotcha.
But that's a good point. It makes sense to me that in the high success world, like, how could you deny that there is some sort of higher power? Like, I have this vision. I have this goal. I want to build a business. I want to be a movie star. I want to write for Vogue. I want to whatever. I want to see UFOs. I think it's no different than manifestation. It's just a little different. Okay, that's counterintuitive, but you know what I mean. It's different, but it's no different.
Definitely. You can use manifestation for anything, and I certainly use it for success, but it goes against the traditional, like, societal ideas of how success happens, which it's changing, but I feel like the way we grew up, largely it was, you have to hustle, you have to grind, you have to work really hard, you have to put in so much effort to get what you want, and you have to earn it, you have to deserve it, you have to be worthy of it. And for me, what I believe is we are already worthy of whatever we want. If we want it, it's for a reason. Like, our desires are very sacred. And this idea that we have to work really hard for something, that's just a belief. When we believe that something is going to be hard, usually it is hard. But with manifesting, what I love about it is, we were talking about this in the car today, you are calling on forces and energies much, much greater than you to smooth your path, to add surprise and delight to your life, to support you, to make things better than you could have ever imagined. And that's why I love manifestation and why it's very different from me from goal setting. Because with manifestation, you are calling on whatever you want to call it, God, source, consciousness, infinite intelligence, and
the universe. You're
creating a conversation, and you are working with the energies of the universe. You're trusting in the uncertainty somehow of not knowing how it's going to happen. And that, I think, is also the fun of manifestation, is usually something comes to fruition in a way that you never, ever, ever could have imagined. Like, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this in his amazing book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He says, for manifestation to really be a manifestation, you have to be wowed, because the universe has an infinite number of possibilities, an infinite way that it can bring you something. You usually think something's going to happen. You want something, you think, okay, it could happen this way, this way, this way. The universe is infinite, so possibilities are infinite. Lifetimes could be infinite, lives. And so we can tap into that energy just by trusting that it's possible, and just by relieving ourselves of the control of forcing something to happen, efforting our way through things. Because think about the energy of force and effort. You're pushing. Pushing energy is very repellent, because think about if I'm pushing you to do something, you're going to be like, I don't like that. It's kind of the same with your manifestation. You want your manifestation to be attracted to you. And what's attractive is wholeness, not neediness. Like you were saying with sales, detachment, feeling whole with or without the manifestation, because the truth is you are already whole. You were born whole. You were whole yesterday. You will be whole tomorrow. When we have this feeling like, I need that thing, I need that money, I need that person, I need that thing to happen. And by the way, it's totally okay to feel those things, and you can still manifest so much even feeling those things. And for me, I believe that you can manifest amazing things. You can still feel the feeling, very human feelings and emotions of, like, anxiety and stress and, all of that, fear. I certainly do. But you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a religion. That stress doesn't have to be the norm. You can have something that overrides those feelings of like, actually, you know what? I have this deep trust that it's going to work out. And I'm just going to trust that the universe is smarter than me. Think about all the stuff the universe has to do to keep everything spinning and floating.
Yeah, perfectly.
Keep us alive. And, there's so much beautiful balance and harmony and magic out there. And just opening yourself up to that infinite possibility, that is what makes manifestation so magical and so different from setting goals.
You said something a few minutes ago, but you were on such a roll. I wanted to wait.
Okay.
You know? But I've found in the last few years, and it's funny because I grew up Christian, you know, so it was always, you got to have faith. You got to have faith. And I think faith is universal, right? Like what you said was you have to trust in the uncertainty, right? And that's something that I have recently realized. Like if I'm really stressed about things in my life, I'm really worried something's going to happen. I used to always, but just because of, you know, traumas I've been through and how my brain has been conditioned, I've oftentimes had this great sense of impending doom at different points in my life. Everything's going to come crashing down. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to, you know, lose my job, which, you know, kind of did, but that's a different story. It's not what you think. And, you know, I've just always had these feelings of like, oh my God, you know, panic, crisis. And in the last few years, what's helped me deal with that is realizing, you know, I just got to have faith that things are working out how they're supposed to. And it, you know, it's all going to be all right. And sometimes things are not supposed to be so clear. Sometimes you look outside the window and it's a storm and you can't see, you know, down the street and everything's okay. Sometimes storms are really tough and they tear your house down, but then you just get back up and you rebuild. And it seems like faith. It seems like faith is a strong part of this. Not necessarily faith in, you know, my God or your God,
right.
not like that, but faith in, you know, the divine, right?
Right. Faith in that love, that divine love that's keeping us alive, that has an interest in, you know, keeping our hearts beating and our brains working and our stomachs digesting and the world spinning. And, you know, if you think about all the things that could possibly go wrong at any time, like this floor could collapse underneath us, but
God
we know
forbid.
It's not gonna. You know, like think of all the moments in your day where something could go wrong, but everything actually goes right, and things go right a lot.
They do. And we just don't often notice them.
Right, and we don't appreciate them either. Like even the fact that I got here, you know, I told you the story. I flew from Cairo to New York to JFK. I had a connecting flight out of LaGuardia, so totally different airport.
I do not like that airport.
It's like, this was like a cuckoo thing to think would like work out perfectly. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to manifest it. It's going to happen. I got to LaGuardia at 1:34 for a 1:59 flight to Wilmington. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it. And I just leaned on, you know, my manifestation tools for that, because that's all I had at that point, right? Like there's only so much you can do at
Faith
passport control, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, this was a great example actually. Okay, so you're at passport control, you're at the airport, like you're at a place, you're in an environment that feels so dense, like there are so many rules, right? Like this is like the most 3D that it gets, is like the line at passport control, right? People are panicking, they're tired, babies are crying, people are frustrated, everyone's cramped in. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to make this flight. I was like looking at, you know, later flights that I could take, and I was like, oh, nothing really like makes sense or works. And then I was like, wait a second, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to imagine my aura bubble around me just filled with love, and I'm going to send love to everybody here, and I'm going to make this line go really quickly even though it's not moving now, and I'm just going to take a moment to be grateful for this incredible trip to Egypt that I had, instead of projecting onto the next thing that could go wrong, the next thing, and am I going to make it? I have all my needs met right now. Yes, I'm sweaty. Yes, I'm thirsty. Like, yes, I'm tired.
Covered in sand.
Right. I'm covered in sand.
Delirious.
Right. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shift my energy. I'm going to do this love bubble around me. I'm going to feel gratitude for the incredible trip that I had. I'm going to call my mom to kind of distract myself from, you know, what's happening right now, to get myself out. And what do you know? That line was inching along because they had one agent working. And then after that, it's like shoop, 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 shoop. I was out of there by 1:00, and I was like, thank you, universe. And I got in the plane down here and I just cried tears of gratitude, because I was like, you got me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it's like that whole time I could have just trusted instead of freaked out. But that's also something that I want to share with like my students and my friends, is like, you can still feel those human emotions of like anxiety, mistrust, but you know what? The universe still has your back.
But there's a difference here too. You got to the point where you're feeling the anxiety and you're feeling the stress and the worry. And then what did you do? You took action.
Yeah.
You took spiritual action.
Yep.
You know, and you started going inward and you started doing work. You could have just trusted the whole time that everything was going to work out. But I think that speaks to something that it got to the point where you were so worried that you're like, let me take action.
Yeah.
You know, and start visualizing and, you know, sending out your desires and your thoughts.
Yes. Let me like actually use the tools in my tool belt right now.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, a lot of people talk about manifestation a lot. You know, you can get a lot of information on social media, but the actual application in your life, like, can you spend money feeling confident that it's going to come back to you tenfold?
Yeah.
You know, can you make an ask of somebody that feels really scary, but be completely in your confidence that it's going to happen for you? You know, that is the beauty of manifesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think manifestation is amazing. So we talked about Vogue, right? And that's obviously just a big blatant, I mean.
Can I run over you real quick?
Please.
What I really like about what you said and your experience in the airport is you, from my perspective, kind of took inventory on what you could control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And completely controlled it. And everything else just like got out of your way.
Yeah.
And I think that's like,
You let go.
Right. You let go,
Detach.
but
I let go.
it was like, what do I have control over in this situation? And let me make the best of that. Right.
Yep.
And I think like that's huge for sure.
Thank you.
You know what's funny? You might like to hear this.
Yeah.
But Alex is actually kind of a big manifestor in our group.
Ooh.
You want to go into
I get that sense.
You should tell her some of your practices, please.
Well, the latest
she
one.
can give you some input on how to improve the craft.
I'm curious.
What I want to talk about, what really got me interested is the goal setting versus the manifestations.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of like the goal is the manifestation. I have trouble differentiating those, because I also feel like if you're trying to manifest something and a work opportunity shows up, you need to work. Like, you know, if you want it to be easy and you have this manifestation and then a door opens, but it's going to take some work, I'm like, yes, get in that door, do the work, and you'll be there. But the latest thing was not raining on my wedding day. Which the whole week it was calling for rain, 70% chance of rain. And I just knew how much that it meant to her and everything that had gone into it. And so I started visualizing it not raining during the ceremony as I'm falling asleep, which is just like, that's how I fit it into my day. And I think it works really well.
Yeah.
And it rained the entire time except for during the ceremony.
Yep.
Wow.
It was storming, Hannah.
Wow.
Storming.
It rained about 3 inches where we were that day.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was bleak when we got there. And naturally, we don't want to tell them. And, you know, they're probably stressing out. But we, you know, because I was in the wedding party and all of his other friends and family. We got there early. And it's like storming. And we had to do the whole tent rain plan situation. And we're all just like, I cannot believe this. On their big day, this rain is coming down. And they were chipper. They were good spirits. And right as rain, dude, ceremony happens and it
I wasn't worried. What's really interesting to me
down.
Is like the whole time we had planned to be in one spot at the garden, and they did not set up a tent in that spot. And we had we'd done a rehearsal, and so I knew what the spot looked like. But they set up a tent at a different spot, and that was like the rain plan. And where we ended up being was where the rain plan was, but it was not raining. And that looked closer to my vision where we actually ended up than where we were supposed to be. And I knew where we were supposed to be when I was doing my vision, but I wasn't worried about the details. I wasn't worried about what was behind me. I was focused on it's not raining. And
And do you see how that's different from goal setting? Because you can't goal your way.
Right. You can't take actionable steps to no rain.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that totally. But I go for a lot of big stuff, a lot of job stuff, a lot of like, it's going to take years and it's going to take work. And so that's where it kind of gets fuzzy for me, but we don't have to harp on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one belief that will help really with anything, whether it's raining on your wedding day or applying for a job and not getting it, is just believing that you are guided, you are protected, and what's going to happen will be for the highest good of all involved.
Yeah.
And when you actually believe that, your shoulders get to drop. You get to see everything as working in your favor. And that is a really magnetic energy. Because let's go back to Law of Attraction 101. Like attracts like. Mm-hmm. Like energy attracts like energy. So if you feel confident and if you feel supported and you feel good and you feel positive, you're going to attract more ways and reasons to feel that way.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? So we are a microcosm of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. Like the whole as above, so below thing. Mm-hmm. Like we are little symbolic expressions of this higher existence. We are like little gods, and we are images of the big God, right? So if you think about human souls and our divine potential and importance, something that it comes to me this way. You're telling me that you can't be needy, you can't be desperate, you can't, have so much worry when you're trying to attract something. Mm-hmm. You have to trust in the uncertainty. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of dating.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
It's hilarious. It's like, if you think about us as
kind of like a dance,
isn't it? Yeah. It's like, it's almost like you have to have that confidence, that detachment, you get too needy, like, blowing up the spot and love bombing and
whatever.
You know what I mean? Like it reminds me of dating. And then I think it applies to so many other facets of life. I really am contemplating, like, is this some secret law? The secret is where they talk about it, but is this really some secret law throughout the universe that applies to all things, dating, success, finances, everything? Like,
yeah, like attracts like.
Yeah.
Think about how attractive it is to meet somebody who doesn't feel needy, who feels completely whole in who they are. That's very attractive. That's a very attractive energy in a person.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the universe, the money that you desire, the fame, the success, whatever it is, the ease and the flow. I manifest a lot of ease and flow into my life, like with travel, like let today please, universe, thank you for making this day full of ease and flow.
Yeah.
Show me how good it can get. But yeah, with love and dating, that is a great area to apply manifesting, because manifesting is all about feeling, like getting into the feeling of how you think your manifestation will make you feel at the end of the day.
Okay.
Right?
So walk me through it.
We want to manifest because we think that whatever that thing is going to make us feel a certain way, and we want to feel that way, right? Whether that's feeling secure or feeling loved or feeling proud or feeling successful or feeling safe or feeling healthy, feeling beautiful. The end goal is always the feeling, right? More than the thing. It's how the thing is going to make us feel.
Okay.
So in manifestation, a way to quantum leap or jump is to feel the feeling like it's already here. Like feel the gratitude for having made your flight. Feel the gratitude for having found your person. Feel the gratitude for having gotten that job. Like attracts like. If you're feeling that now, you are super speeding the timeline from wanting to having.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right?
I think, like, I'm just thinking, speaking out loud for the audience, trying to break down, like, how I would feel trying to get into this sort of situation. Like, for example, I could imagine it being hard when you're super stressed, you're down on your hope, to try to feel these positive emotions about an uncertain situation or outcome because of being afraid to get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Or
that's
being
a big thing.
Afraid to be let down. So, like, how are some ways that we can overcome that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Okay, so I have this little manifestation map that's really like my blueprint. It's like the journey of how manifesting usually feels for people. And manifestation always starts with desire, right? You want something, and I believe our desires are sacred and we shouldn't downgrade them. We should just accept them. Usually after we want something, we get into what I call uncertainty valley. And that is where we're like, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, is this too much? Do I want too much? Like, am I good enough? Like, where is it? I'm impatient. You know, that's uncertainty valley. And uncertainty valley, like when you're feeling these feelings of like, you know, like you just said, like, oh, you know, I'm
afraid to get my hopes up.
I don't want to get my hopes up. Like, I don't want to be disappointed. You're expecting disappointment. All of that happens in uncertainty valley. Great news is that's a natural part of the manifesting process. And if you are in uncertainty valley, you are still on your way. Like, remember,
that's great.
The goal is not to be like superhuman here. Like, we're human. We're here to experience all of those like emotions of like, oh, like not wanting to get my hopes up, disappointment, like insecurity, fear. The great news about uncertainty valley, that's like the fertile ground for what you have to, the lessons that you have to learn and what you have to overcome to be the higher version of yourself. So in uncertainty valley, that's usually where our ego freaks out. So it's like, how can I evolve here? What are the lessons and the patterns that keep coming up? Why do I feel like it's not safe to get my hopes up? Where did that come from? When did that belief get implanted? It's a great space for self-inquiry. So when you're in uncertainty valley and the manifestation's not happening, that's a great time to pause and be like, okay, what do I believe about myself? How is my self-worth and self-image right now? Is it really true that just because I felt disappointment in the past that it means that I have to, you know, guard myself from feeling that ever again? What if it's okay to feel disappointment? What if I can just believe that because I'm so loved by the universe, because I'm whole with or without the manifestation, that if I'm disappointed, that's okay. And I just know there's something better out there for me. It must be because, you know, the universe or God or source has bigger plans for me. So that's where you begin in uncertainty valley. That's your opportunity when you feel the ego freaking out to transmute that energy, to learn those lessons, to recognize who you need to be in alignment with the manifestation. Beautiful, but difficult, sometimes very confronting place to be, but it's part of the manifesting journey. A lot of manifestation teachers will say, you can't feel, you know, don't feel negative emotions. You got to feel positive emotions, but that's just part of the process, because once you work through that, then you're vibrating even higher, then you're even more magnetic. So that's part 2 of the journey. And then usually after you've done that work, but it hasn't materialized yet, you're in this place of like release, trust, detachment. And that's where you feel like, okay, it's coming. I know it's coming. I trust that it's happening in perfect timing. And then when it comes to fruition, finally, the manifestation arrives. Now you actually have a responsibility to expand, to fit, to be the person to whom that manifestation can happen to. Because sometimes, you know, actually we're manifesting all the time. But sometimes we manifest things that we really want, but then we freak out. Our ego freaks out because we're like, what if I lose this?
I experience this all the time,
right?
Which is why I asked.
Yeah, like worst case scenario thinking.
Because I have big goals.
Right, but I'm sure like all these amazing things have happened to you and you probably haven't taken time to be like, thank you. Like, this is great. Like, I deserve this. I accept this. You know, this is normal. You normalize it for yourself.
Right.
So the final step when the manifestation arrives is you express gratitude, but you expand to fit the person to whom that's a normal occurrence. And I have this tool that I love so much that anybody can do, and it's so easy and accessible, but I call it leveling. It's a leveling tool. So if you want to manifest something, whether it is a person, you know, like it could be like meeting somebody that you really like. I've used this when I've interviewed celebrities and it works like magic. You can use it for jobs. You can use it for, you know, physical goods. You can use it for money. Usually when we want something, we are putting it on a pedestal somewhere, or it seems energetically very far away from us. So like think about something that you want right now. You know the term pie in the sky? Pie in the sky, that feels really freaking far away, right?
It does.
So you kind of like energetically feel into, where am I putting that thing? Where am I putting the 100K months? Where am I putting the soulmate? Where am I putting the dream body? Am I putting it on a pedestal? Am I creating so much distance between me and it that because I believe that it's going to take 10 years and a ton of hard work to achieve? Okay, so just figure out, you know, where energetically you're putting that manifestation or desire. And then close your eyes and very simply in meditation, just imagine that thing coming into your aura bubble. And even
I like that.
Even looking at it eye to eye. Like if it's a person, I will look that person in the eye. I did this with Christina Aguilera before I interviewed her.
Oh, wow.
And we looked at each other in the eyes, and I put my hand on her heart, and she put her hand on my heart, and we leveled. I leveled her, right? She's not above me, because nobody's above or below you, right? Nobody. She's right here with me. We are equal. You can do that with anything. And that is such a great feeling, and it works. I have my students tell me all the time, like, oh, I leveled this, I leveled that, and then it happened, I like that. That's one of my favorite tools.
I've never heard of this technique.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. I feel like I am genuinely learning so much.
Yay!
And this is like kind of mind-blowing for me because literally like, we've spent a week together at Monroe, and now the last, 2 days,
yep.
And it feels like we've known each other so long, and all of us feel so connected. But the interesting thing is, because we're all at Monroe together this, the past time, we're kind of there for a purpose, right? And I feel like I never got the chance to like ask you about manifestation.
Yeah.
And see, I knew Amy before. I had met her and had her on the show, so I kind of knew her take already. But I didn't get the chance to talk to you about manifestation at Monroe, and I'm so glad, honestly, because just to have you here, to go into this and to hear your experience and your knowledge, and I feel like I'm one of your students right now.
Yay, that means so much to me. Like
this is some powerful stuff. I'm really kind of taken aback.
I love sharing it. I feel like so aligned when I share this. Which is a confirmation that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I really believe too, when we share these truths, and I'm sure you feel this way too, with what you do and what you open people up to, is we just get rewarded, and we receive blessings for sharing this, because I think it's all based in love. And I think we get rewarded by the universe when we just spread love.
I agree. We talked about that, Alex, on the Gnosticism episode. I know you probably don't remember this, but that's kind of where I come in, right? And are you familiar with Gnosticism?
Not really.
Oh, it's so cool. We're not going to
listen to that episode.
Yeah, we won't take up your time for going into that. We can talk about it later.
Yeah.
But and we do have a good episode on it. I think it's good. And let's just say this, okay? Gnosticism is so you have this version. I'm a big mysticism guy, right? You know this. I'm a big esoteric guy. I want to learn them all. I want to learn about every secret society. I want to learn about all their backgrounds and see how they connect. It's like a big web, right? Throughout the past. So Gnosticism is the secret writings and scrolls of the story of Jesus, and they're completely different from the Bible, right? And they're real historic scrolls that were found in the desert in Egypt in the 1950s, and they tell a different story, that he was more of like a mystic who talked about reincarnation, and that we are like in an illusion. It says the word nightmare, but still, I mean, same principle. I had a little bit of a kind of like a this is hell. This is not the real world. The real world is the spirit. This is, you have to wake up to the truth that you are a part of the divine. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's completely different than the Bible, right? And we know in the ancient past they were killing people. They were literally killing this group of people, and that's probably why their scrolls were hidden in the desert, right? Anyway, enough about that. But there is I want to say it was the Secret Apocryphon of John, which is like the Secret Gospel of John, one of the Gnostic texts. By the way, they're dated back to this actual time.
Yeah.
Like they're probably really written by people who were close to him. And like if we didn't have, nefarious power brokers throughout humanity deciding what the masses have access to, they probably would have been in the main texts. Wow. They probably would have been part of the normal story, if you catch my drift. They're ancient, they're authentic. And there's a verse in one of them that says, "Blessed is the one who shares the truth with others." Wow. And I think that goes along with what you just said.
Yes.
That you're rewarded for sharing love with others.
Yes.
You feel aligned when you share this information. I think
Yes.
it's some secret principle that, when we try to help others, when we try to uplift others and, freely share knowledge with others or help them manifest or, help them grow. And it's like, yeah, I think you're right. I think that we are rewarded, that we're blessed.
Yes.
And I think we probably could say that we've experienced that. We set out here to try to educate people and inform and entertain. We laugh, we goof and cut up, but like we're serious about what we're doing. And we've been really blessed. And,
I mean, you have great energy around you, and meeting your friends too, and the people that you work with, like there's such good vibes. You can feel it. Like we have a problem sometimes trusting in manifestation because we're like, oh, we can't see it, right? We can't see the energy. But guys, we feel energy all the time. Like it's like when you're around somebody that you like,
Mm-hmm.
or listen to a song that puts you in a great mood. Like that's all energy.
Yeah.
My voice is energy right now.
That's true.
Everything's energy. But that's so I'm very interested in that, especially coming from the desert of Egypt.
We can talk more about it later. I don't want to eat up your episode about that.
But it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That maybe he, traveled to the east, traveled to Tibet, India, Persia, Greece, Egypt, and learned all of these different mystical schools. There's like a different version of Jesus, which I like it better. I like it better than the version that's like, you gotta, say this line or you'll die and go to hell forever. It's like, well, what if we're already kind of in the hard place?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, what I love about you and what I love about, just your thirst for knowledge is that it's so expansive to just be open to different perspectives.
Everything.
And it applies to manifestation too. It's like, be open to the fact that this could all work out perfectly in a way that you could never expect. And that quote too about blessed is he who shares the truth with others. Truth is a very high vibration too. Like think about how sacred truth is, and truth can be subjective, obviously, but some people say truth is an even higher vibration than love,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because I think love is embodied in truth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Think about like if you're in a relationship and you love somebody, but you're not telling them the truth. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to apologize real quick about my coughing and things. I have a sore throat, so I know the audience has probably been hearing me cough. And if it's okay with you guys, can we take a short break so I can have some tea and put some honey in it, and then we can come right back?
Perfect.
And I have some more questions I want to ask.
Okay, great.
We're good?
Yeah.
You having fun?
I'm having a great time.
Okay, we'll take a quick little 5.
Okay.
We're back. I apologize once again. I had to get some tea and some honey. But while we were getting set up to start again, Alex and Hannah started getting into a conversation, and Jenny was like, you guys are doing the podcast. And I was like, yeah, stop. So let's pick up, because Alex, I think, had a good question.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll bring it in from the Uncertainty Valley then. So we were talking about how those uncertain thoughts and feelings don't cross my mind because I love myself. I'm like really cool with who I am. And I think that if I can see it in my mind, then I can have it. There's not a question there. And so I was kind of explaining that because no one's ever really put it into words for me like you did just then. So I think that's super valuable, because I was kind of telling you, I've never really tried to explain it. I've never really tried to like look deeper. I just know that I do it, and it happens and it works. And I'm like completely content with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You have like a deep sense of faith and trust. And even when I met you last night, you talked about being in prayer, the morning of your wedding. And I could tell that you were just a very faithful person and you have that energy. So you're highly magnetic and you don't need to go through Uncertainty Valley for everything.
And that's kind of the Uncertainty Valley thing's not new for me, but all the other stuff and the prayer stuff is really new. And by new, I mean like a year and a half or 2 years, like right kind of when the podcast started really like getting into a swing. I mean, I pretty much have to credit Ryan and the whole crew and this whole project for like bringing me back to like God. Right.
Wow,
yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's something big. And it's just been really fun and it's been slow. And we made this joke a couple episodes back. I was like, I don't go to church. I go to podcasts on Thursdays.
Yeah, he says that a lot.
Yeah. Cause I had some LDS people knock on my door, and then instead of like kicking them off, I was just like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh, wow,
So now they come
brave.
back all the time.
I'm always like, no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, it's just like I've done that before. You know, some Mormon missionaries knock on the door, and it's like I'm not gonna buy what they're selling, but at least give them the opportunity. Yeah, sure.
Well, so they
Talk to me
think that
about
we
it.
have a very religious podcast that goes on every week because I didn't tell them it was about aliens. I said, yeah, we talk about religion and stuff.
That's hilarious.
Where were we going where you told us to stop?
You were
We were
just
talking about the psychology of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
So I was talking about the manifesting thing to a really good friend of mine, and the kickback from the objection from him not wanting to do it was, what if it takes away from somebody else? And I was like, you know, I'm a little bit selfish, and so like really deep down I'm like, you know, so what? They can manifest it back, or like what, you know, you can do whatever you want, like just, you know, as long as it's pure and you have good intention, like that's kind of like the secret sauce. I think that's what really makes things work seamless and fast, is if you're like truly coming from a good place. But I'm at the same time, I'm like, just get what you want, like, and it doesn't feel selfish. It just feels like, you know, I'm worthy and I can do it, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time explaining it.
I understand that completely. And, you know, the person you were talking to understandably has a bit of a scarcity complex, which if you are raised in our society, or like, you know, our capitalist society, patriarchal society, we are indoctrinated into believing that there are the haves and the have-nots, that if you want
the American
something,
dream,
right, you're taking away from somebody else. But going back to that idea of infinity is something that I always go back to. And this idea that if the universe is always expanding, then everything is infinite. You know, think about like the amount of hairs on your head. Like you could never
I can't imagine
count them,
the
or
number.
like sand granules. Like my mentor Catherine like always talks about, you know, think about the amount of oxygen or sunlight. Like nature is naturally abundant. Like it never wants for anything.
It's
it
like
knows
incomprehensible.
exactly what to do. Yeah, there's so much abundance in nature. We're part of nature. So abundance is our truth, right? Scarcity is not our truth. Scarcity is our fearful programming. It's a little shift, you know, and it's not necessarily an easy one, because we, you know, through media, through culture, through the way we were raised, you know, we do experience scarcity. That is a real thing, right? And I really believe in my manifesting practice too, that manifesting our dream lives, thinking bigger than what we have, envisioning bigger than what we have, that is a massive privilege, because you need to have all of your basic needs met until you can start to dream bigger. You know, most of us, right?
Right.
So I always say, you know, I don't try to spiritually bypass the 3D and be like, just manifest it, everything's fine. Like, no, like we do deal with sadness here, and we do deal with scarcity here on the earthly plane. And I feel very grateful that because I have like my food, water, shelter, safety needs met on a day-to-day basis, that I can start to dream beyond that. And that's also for me why, you know, activism and social justice really dovetails with my manifesting practice, because I truly believe that, you know, if we want to give everybody the opportunity to manifest the life of their dreams and to really raise the consciousness and the vibration, then that is like the ultimate act of love, is like helping other people get their needs met too. So yeah, that's also something you don't necessarily hear a lot in the manifesting space.
Yeah, for sure.
That's an interesting one, because I was explaining the manifesting thing and how I felt like I was good at it to a guest that we had on the show. And he was like, oh, you're good at it? Okay, manifest something for someone else. And I was like, whoa, never thought about that at all. And then I did. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, felt like a new level unlocked. But yeah, it's totally possible.
Do you remember his last name?
Wish-on.
Yeah. He'd be making
Wish on a
wishes.
star, baby.
There's something to that.
Well, it comes from wise man.
Yeah, like a wizard.
Yeah.
Wizard means wise
Like
man.
Weissnat is the German, but wise man, and then it ended up Wish-on.
So good.
Isn't it like just it writes itself.
No, totally.
You know?
Totally.
Something he does. So I was bringing this up earlier, but then we kind of went a different way. But I want to go back to it because I really want you to hear his practices. And he figured this out on his own.
Yeah.
So when he lays in bed at night is when he starts to think about what he wants as he's falling asleep. You hear about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like I just go to my happy place. Like, and I think that's really relatable, especially for, you know, because it kind of comes from this fear of death, right? And and if I lay there and when I'm falling asleep, and I can start to really spiral really quickly into like death, right? It's always like dying, and I think that's where a lot of like my urgency comes from in life, of just like wanting to get things done really quickly and like move forward. But anyway, so instead of doing that and thinking about death for 30 minutes, I start to think, okay, what do I want? And then I paint the picture, and then I like live it like I'm there. And I'll just start to like, okay, what's like, you know, what's coming up next for me? What do I want to do next? Or like, and then I start to like live that picture, and I am in that moment, and I feel those things. And then I kind of also am able to zoom out and look at it from like a third person and like really paint a picture. And then I just fall asleep. And by the morning time, I'm not really worried about it.
Okay, that is so beautiful.
Right?
That is like a very expert manifestation tool. Because, when we get in bed, a lot of us, what do? We spiral, we're anxious, we think about what we did or didn't do that day or have to do the next day. And our subconscious minds are more malleable, you know, before we go to sleep and when we wake up. So it's a really important time to program new realities and new neural pathways. We're just more susceptible. We're kind of in a hypnotic state in that in between. So doing that is absolutely brilliant. Like, that's a great tool. Before I go to sleep, I like to recall something I'm proud of from that day, and then something that I'm grateful for, and that helps put me in a good place. And I cut all my cords, so I imagine this huge halo of white light coming down my entire body and cutting any energetic cords that I may have picked up that day from people or energies, and just going to bed with a clean slate. So I love that so much.
Now you're going to love the next practice.
Okay.
You know where I'm going with this?
The video game?
Yep.
Okay.
You want to tell
Well,
me?
I want to talk about gratefulness real quick.
Okay.
It's a huge part, and I didn't realize it until you started talking about it. But like this most recent job that I have, I manifested, and I absolutely love it. And I think about how much I love it every day while I'm doing it. And that is the gratefulness part.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't set aside time to sit down and be grateful. I just kind of like, you just have to remind yourself that
just are grateful.
Right. And you are where you're at, and you have to be grateful for where you are at.
Yeah.
But okay, talking about Ryan's thing.
It ain't my thing, it's your thing.
Well, what you brought up. The other practice is kind of, I'll use this when I'm struggling with the detachment. And it's usually with really physical things, like I'm stuck on something that I want really bad, but it's huge, right? It's like out of reach, so to speak. And I like want it really bad, and I'm struggling with letting it go. Minecraft.
What is that?
It's like a,
It's like
you
the biggest
can explain
video
it
game
better
in the
than
world.
I can. Yeah.
You've probably seen it.
I've
like
heard of it.
The block building
you
game.
build blocks, and
Okay.
a lot of children are into it. It's like the biggest, most selling video game of all time. They just announced a movie where like Jack Black is in it. You might have seen a trailer on social media or something, but
It's like so outside my algorithm, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's
Welcome to the nerd algorithm.
It's just been out for so long.
I'm gonna start getting ads and stuff. But yeah, okay.
Probably. It's just been out for so long. I figured you had to
I've heard of it.
at least have been exposed to an image. But
the term.
You build things like Legos.
Okay.
In the video game.
But digitally.
They have this like creative realm where you have unlimited access to everything.
All resources.
So like every material, everything.
Oh, that's cool.
And I will build what it is. And then once it's built and like in this little computer world, I can let it go because it's real.
Ooh, that's so good. And so, did somebody teach you this, or
No.
are you just?
That's
you're
why
just
I
intuitively
gotta.
doing these
That's my
tools is
point. Yeah.
Great. Okay, what you're doing is you're listening to your intuition, and you are kind of setting it and forgetting it. You know, like intention setting is big in manifestation, right? But then you kind of have to let it go. You can't obsess. Like, okay, I want the intention to create, this amount of money this month, or bring this amount of listeners into the podcast. You set the intention. Maybe you do some energetic practices. For me, sometimes I like burn things. Like I write something on a piece of paper, or I'll program it into my aura bubble. I'll create energy in my palms in the morning, every morning, and program into my aura bubble what I want to experience that day. It can be something as easy as like love, flow, ease, magic. It can be something as specific as like, I want this person to email me. And then I just kind of sit in that aura bubble, and then I forget it. And I'm good for the rest of the day. And I don't have to be like, wait, but like, how are my manifestations doing? Like, it's like we wouldn't check on a flower after we watered it. You know what I mean? Like, we trust that it's kind of doing its thing. We'll check in on it, right? But like, we're like, it's got it.
Yeah.
Nature's got it. Yeah. That's brilliant. I love that.
I just felt like you had to hear.
No, I love that.
He just figured this stuff out on his own.
It's great. It's
I don't have an answer for you, but thank you.
You could, have your own manifesting coaching business. I don't know a lot of male manifestors.
He's one of your employees now. Yeah. He help you out.
Yeah, I feel
extra
like
clients.
There's a lot of women in this space, and which is awesome. We all have like very different perspectives on it. But yeah, I love hearing men talk about manifesting, putting the man in manifesting.
Putting the man in manifesting.
Yeah.
And you know who that's coming from?
You're head of my marketing department already.
Yeah.
We put the man in manifesting, and that's coming from Hannah-festing.
Hannah-festing. You guys are Hannah-festers.
Yes, we are all now Hannah-festing. This should be Hannah-festing with Hannah. No, I mean,
I liked it.
Okay with that. The Brad, shout out Brad. He came up with that, right?
Yeah, thanks, Brad at Monroe Institute. I was like instantly, bought that URL. So.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
too good.
It's too good.
It's just too good.
No, it's great.
You catch my drift?
Oh
A
yeah.
little reference there.
Oh yeah. It's just
But,
too good.
In my little break when I was making tea, as you were talking the first, I guess half now, because we took a break.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many different questions pop up in my mind, but you were in such a flow that I didn't want to break you, break up your flow. So when I was making the tea, I wrote them down. So there's some other things
I'm so excited.
I really want to ask.
Okay.
And I know you've talked about some of them, like manifesting your positions at Vogue and Elle, being a writer and you've told me off camera some other things, but I think it'd be great for the listener. When you started really getting into manifesting, what are some of the things that started happening to you that proved to you that it was real without a doubt?
That is such a great question. Okay, so one of the first things that comes to me is that when I started deep diving into the manifesting work and doing deep application and not just having it be theory, I wanted to manifest a book deal by my birthday.
And then what's the name of your book?
Real Friends Talk About Race.
Real Friends Talk About Race,
yes,
everybody.
It's about bridging the gaps between women of color and white women. So you can see how like my activism and my manifesting kind of come together. Not a book about manifesting, but with my business partner, my former business partner, shout out Izu, she and I had a podcast about bridging the gaps between women of color and white women. And we got approached by an agent, and I was like, I want to manifest, I manifested an agent. And that's the book writing process was like a huge manifestation for me, getting a book deal with HarperCollins, like what they call a big four book deal.
Yeah.
And I had said, I want to get a book deal by my birthday, February 26th. I wrote it down, and, on my birthday in February 26th, this was in 2021, I was in Ojai celebrating, feeling so much love and gratitude that day. Like, because I'm getting these beautiful messages from people. They're saying happy birthday. I'm feeling so elevated. I'm feeling so happy. Key to manifesting, accessing those higher energies, which are very high in the energetic scale. It's like love is up here, joy is up here, fear is down here, right? And we got an email that day from HarperCollins saying that they were interested in giving us a book deal, and then we ended up signing with them.
It's amazing.
And that was incredible. Seeing hyper-specific things happen, like on the date that I wanted, that's when I was like, okay, I'm having this conversation. I'm having this relationship with the universe. And I don't, some people are really connected to their guides. Like, oh, my guide is like this specific angel, or my past life, self, or my ancestor. I just feel like a love, like I just feel this love and this guidance. So that was a big thing. And then started seeing other crazy things happen in my business, like, having a course and having one person sign up for it, but being super in trust that we were going to sell out this course. And so a great manifesting tool is acting as if it's already happened. So getting into that timeline, quantum jumping to that version of you, getting into those feelings of it already being done. So trying to, get people as students into this course. And I thought, okay, the version of me who has a full course, what would she be doing right now? Oh, she would be celebrating. She'd be celebrating that all those students coming in. And that's one of my favorite tools. I call it pre-celebration. You celebrate before the thing happens, which is very counterintuitive because most people are like, they contract and they're like, I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to get my hopes up. Right. So it's very counterintuitive, but tell me what feels better. Feels way better to celebrate. Feels way better to feel good. It's good to feel good. So I went, we had one student sign up. I went and I got a pedicure. I got a haircut. I went to the chiropractor. I was like, I'm in celebration mode. Like, I'm so excited. I'm still having those feelings of doubt. I'm still having those feelings of like, am I delusional? And then that night, I get an email and it's somebody saying, hey, my boss came across your course in a Facebook group. Somebody said it was great. Can 10 of us sign up? And I was like, holy shit.
10x.
That's freaking crazy. This boss turned out to be a famous influencer. Then she posted it on her Instagram and we were off to the races. I mean, it was magical. It was magical. And this work is never not magical. And I believe and I insist on living a magical life because why not? So yeah, so many things have happened throughout the years. I don't know if I told you this story, but growing up, I was a huge Christina Aguilera fan. And when I was in college, I'm a fan in a way where it's like, and we call ourselves fighters. It's like what her fan base calls ourselves. But it's just one of those connections where you're just like, I feel connected to this person. I don't know why. Like they mean a lot to me. And I really believe too, like going back to the leveling, if you're a fan of somebody, it's very possible that they are meant to meet you.
Really?
Right? If you're that, like, if you feel that connected to somebody and nobody's above or below you, it's like, why? Why are you such a fan? Maybe you're meant to be, have some kind of exchange with them. So I'm in college. Beginning of sophomore year, September, I think. And it's 2006. And I have a framed picture of Christina Aguilera next to my bed. I'm, new to New York, from Pennsylvania, small town. And I go into the city for dinner with my boyfriend at the time. And we walk into this little sushi place and there's Christina Aguilera.
No way.
Sitting with her family. And it was such a blackout moment because I was like, what are the chances? She's like my number one. And, I have barely seen, I don't know celebrities. Like I'm 19 and I'm, new to New York and growing up in Pennsylvania, you don't see any celebrities. So I'm blown away that this is like the person, like this is her, like
in
sitting
your
right
small
here.
Town? Or in New York?
This is in New York.
Okay,
yes,
yeah, in New York.
Yes. So it was just mind blowing for me. And my boyfriend at the time was like, if you say anything to her, I will break up with you. Like, do not embarrass me. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
Which I should have just been like, okay, we're done, you know? But no, it took another several years for me to do that. But what do you know? I just trusted in the timing. And earlier this year, I got to interview her for Vogue. And that was so cool to actually get to sit down and talk to her. Way better than like a passing, like, hi, I just gotta start to interrupt your dinner and be like, I'm a huge fan. Got to interview her and have like a heart to heart with her for Vogue, That's
amazing.
And I got to see her opening show, the first night of her show, her new show in Vegas, and sit front row, and it was like, okay, the universe had the best timing in mind for me. It took almost 20 years, but now I'm in a better place to receive that too.
Yeah.
I'm with better people.
You're more wise.
I'm wiser. I've leveled that shit.
You've
you know?
matured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Gone through my uncertainty valleys, and here it is coming to fruition.
That's amazing. That's a powerful story, and I have a similar one. So the first time my dad and my sister went to Monroe, it was 2022. Mm-hmm. And it was like a private UFO group that was thrown together for, my dad to go and other people to go who are like in the UFO field. Mm-hmm. My sister went. I was invited. Actually, I think my whole family was invited. And I said no because we had just started the podcast, I guess a year before at that point, 2021. And I didn't know them yet. I had been exposed to the tapes because obviously I grew up with, CIA in my life, and mm-hmm. some of the people that I have grown up around were a part of Monroe, so they mm-hmm. were like giving us tapes, and, Jenny told you her story, how she listened to the tapes and it opened her up, and, she started seeing orbs for the first time after the tapes. But my point is, I still didn't know enough about them to understand like how they were as people. So I was afraid that if I went back in 2022, that I would have to sign like an NDA or something, mm-hmm. and that I wouldn't be allowed to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So on principle, I was like, I think you guys should go first. I'm a little nervous to go because I'm the kind of person where if I go, it'll kill me if I can't talk about it. Mm-hmm. So you guys go first, have your experience, and hopefully I can go next time. And then they went a next time. But I couldn't go because I'm actually officially allowed to say this now. They filmed there with the History Channel. So, yeah, we got the word that we're allowed to talk a little bit about that. So they went and they filmed with the History Channel there. And that did get delayed. I'm not going to go into why, but it's they just feel that it's best if it comes out next year. Election cycle, mm-hmm. things like that. Mm-hmm. So they finished the first half of season 1, and they're like, you know what? We're going to take a break. We're going to relax, and then, we're going to come out again next year strong. And anyway, so my point is I couldn't go that time. I wasn't able to go because they had to film with the History Channel. So I was like, dang, I missed my other opportunity. I get invited to go for their third time. We have a big trip planned. Gets canceled like a month or two before. So now there's 3 Monroe times that we are supposed to have gone to, between my dad and sister and I couldn't go all 3 times. The first time I said no, the second time I couldn't go, the third time was canceled. So in my head, I'm like, I'm never going to go. I can't afford this. I've been going through like a whole job situation, and I was like, maybe someday when I have some spare change, but otherwise, like, I just might not ever have the opportunity. And then March of this year, I get an email. We would love you to come to our first ever creator program where you get to come and make content.
Wow.
Film us. Talk about it.
For free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch my drift?
Yes. Timing.
Yeah.
The timing was divine. And we wouldn't have met. And you wouldn't have met
That's
the
right.
group.
Yep.
And the universe lined that up pretty perfectly.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's so amazing. I can't deny that was manifested.
Absolutely.
I had the deep desire, and I think I had the right intentions, and it just fell right in my lap. And I haven't necessarily, a lot of the things that I've told you in the last 2 days about certain things we're doing, I haven't announced publicly yet, but mm-hmm. Like the path that I'm on with that now is like, oh my God, I never thought I'd be here. So yeah, I'm sitting here pinching myself. Oh my God.
Right. And like, does that experience then strengthen your trust that everything that happens to you, or what you want that you might not have yet, is divinely led? Yeah it does. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. So as you said in the beginning of the episode, at Monroe, and again, for everybody listening, like, this isn't planned. The people at Monroe are very busy, and they have regular retreats, cycling through. They're not sitting here planning like, wouldn't it be cool to have all these creators here who don't know each other to round out the summer solstice, full moon experience? Like, they're not thinking about that. It just fell that way. It just happened that we would be there on the full moon solstice, Mm-hmm. And it was a powerful night.
And I don't know if you were made aware of this, but actually they were pretty nervous about us coming.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Did we talk about it at the debrief
Yeah.
or something?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, with just us, sharing things, opening up.
Would we take it serious?
Right.
Yeah.
Would we be on our phones the whole time and not really engaged in it? Yeah.
They were scared, actually. They were equally, I think, as scared or nervous as we were.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much better because everybody was just, the instructors, they were dancing with us, and we had the pool party on the last night, and you had Arky doing flips into the pool. And
it was one of the best weeks of my life. I mean, it really was.
Top
I think
three.
about it every single day.
Top 3.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick like a best. It's hard. It's like, well, I've been married.
Yeah.
Someday I'll have a child. It's hard to say there's one, but
yes, I said one of the best.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It will always be a top 3.
Because we want to manifest like even better experiences, right? So we're not going to say that that's the best. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it will always permanently be like, oh yeah, top 3, like one of the best weeks of my life.
Absolutely.
But,
absolutely.
So my point of all this is we end that night on the solstice, and then 3 months later. The funny thing about us coming together right now is that when we left Monroe on the last day at the final debrief, I said in front of the whole group, I want everybody to have, I would like everybody to come on my podcast. If you want to come visit in person, please do. You can stay at my house with my wife and I. If you want to do virtual, that's okay. We can do it that way, but it's better in person. But I just open invite instructors, everybody, please, let's get in touch after I get back from Europe and let's do this. We all leave. Mm-hmm. I hear from Chris days later. He's like, I can come this week in September. Like that. Like literally the end of June when we got home. He was like, the week of September 15th, I can come. And I was like, sounds great. And then it was like a month ago that you texted me and you're like, hey, Ryan, I'm flying home from Cairo on September 17th. Cairo, Egypt. If it's okay with you, I would like to take a detour and stay in Wilmington for a few days and do the show and then go back home after Egypt. And I was like, that's when Chris is going to be here.
Yeah.
That wasn't planned.
Yeah.
How long have you had that trip planned?
Well, it's so crazy. So much of this is crazy. So I got invited on the Egypt trip the day that I landed on the East Coast to go to Monroe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's even crazier.
And, I was like, well, let's go back. I remember you had invited me. We were in the pool and you invited me on your podcast. You're like, come do it in person. And I was like, I probably won't. Cause I live in California. That's like kind of like
long
a trip to
yeah.
take for, a podcast recording. No disrespect to the podcast or anything. I was just like, it's just like, it seems like a lot of travel, for a podcast recording. And then it ended up literally working because I was like, I'm going to be coming through the East Coast anyway. It's a 90-minute flight, if
that's
that,
weird.
From New York City to Wilmington. So yeah, it all worked out. And now, like when you were downstairs just, getting your tea, Jenny was showing me like all the photos and stuff of the guests, and I was just like on the ground, and I was just like having this moment where I was like, guys, I think I'm gonna cry again because this is just so full circle. Like I'm on Bledsoe Said So, and it's just been this beautiful journey here. It's wild.
I remember that in the pool. On the last night, we were all in the pool, and even the instructors, and we were orbs were going over our head, and you saw
vibing.
a lot. You saw a lot, which shocked me when you said you couldn't remember.
I do. Okay, this is what's so interesting about my brain versus your brain, because I'm seeing all the things that you remember about my experience, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. But yeah, I did see several orbs that night. But then you have like people being like, oh, it could be a satellite, or that's
Yeah, but I know better.
But this past,
I was going to get into that. Okay. That's where I'm going with this. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So, and I do. I just have a very vivid memory. I remember vividly my interactions with most people. It's just how it is, when I was a baby, like 1 year old, my parents would be watching movies with me in the room or something, and then by the time I was like 3 and 4 and could talk, they were blown away because apparently I would start telling them about movies that I saw as an infant.
Whoa.
With vivid recall, and they're like, "What the heck?" Like, I don't know. I guess I've just always had a good memory.
It's wild.
I'm very lucky because in college I finally started making straight A's, and in high school I finally started making straight A's when I figured out that if I just wake up a couple hours early before tests and study for them, then swear to God, like that's how I started making straight A's in the end. It was like,
Again, that's like the subconscious mind window,
Yeah, I guess so.
Up,
Wake up a little early, but I realized, I'm not really good with studying and for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'll just do it before the test, and it's just how my brain works. Like I can just, it's hard to get me to do it, but then when I do it, it's like all in, remember. Anyway, so moving forward, that night I'm like, yeah, come on out, and you're like, I don't know, because it's a lot of travel, and I was like, oh, all right, well, we'll do it virtual, no big deal, So I was a little shocked when you're like, you messaged me and you're like, hey, I'm flying through on the 17th. Perfect. Come. Yes.
I know.
Chris will be here.
Because after the retreat, it was like, I miss these people way too much. Like, I gotta see them. So
2 nights ago you get here. Or 2 days, whatever.
Delirious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit too, a little stressed with the whole flood travel with Chris and everything. So we go to the beach that night because it's Casey's birthday.
It's a full moon eclipse.
And an eclipse, which we found out that night. Mm-hmm. Now, as I told on Chris's episode, which should be last week's, at this point, what I told on that episode was when I picked him up, I was so stressed about getting him to, see my dad and, because there was the tropical storm and roads were literally flooded out and I had to go it was like 3 hours to get to Fayetteville, by the way. It's a 2-hour drive. I had to go 3 hours on back roads, and going through like 2 and 3 foot puddles of water. My car was waterlogged and it was stuttering and at one point steam was coming out of the engine because I was hitting such heavy puddles of water, and it's getting dark and it's raining and I'm sitting there stressing, and Chris is like, God bless him, he's sitting there cheering me up, like just keeping me alive, talking me through it. We're gonna be fine, man. Worst case scenario, we'll sleep in the car. I was that worried we weren't gonna make it, dude. And we get there, and then it's still storming, so we couldn't skywatch. And I'm bummed about that. Yeah. He flew from Canada just to hang out. I wanted him to meet my dad. He's read the book. He's like a fan of Dad's, and that's the first thing he told me at Monroe. And we get there, and it's raining, and I'm like, You have to understand that where we come from, hundreds of people have come out to our house. And it's a sucky feeling when people come from across the world or across the country to skywatch with you or meet you, and then the weather is out of your control.
Right.
And we know it's like, oh, you paid to travel. Yeah. You're spending time. We couldn't even do the least thing that we could do, which was give you what you came for. Mm-hmm. And Chris was a cool sport about it. Anyway, moving on, because I feel like I'm taking too long on the setup here. Long story short, the next day we go back, pick you up, and we go to the beach.
Yep.
And then what happened?
Okay, this was crazy. I mean, not for you.
Well, it was for me.
But so we go to the beach, we meet some of your friends. It's a beautiful full moon. The moon is reflecting on the water. It's very surreal. I've just come from Egypt. I'm putting my feet in the sand. I'm like, what a journey I've had to get here tonight. And I'm thinking about the last time we were all together on the full moon on the summer solstice. And, we're all just vibing and hanging out. And then, we start to see some orbs in the sky. And, I don't have... my night vision's not great. So you guys are pointing up and saying, oh, did you see that flash? And I'm like, I think I kind of missed it. I am seeing things moving. But then we are looking out at the horizon, and just above the water, we see this series of simultaneously glowing red lights. And it's so massive and it's so unexplainable that I had chills, my heart started racing. I started to be like, oh, this is something that I can't logic away. And that was wild. Yeah. And Chris was freaking out. He was shaking. Filming. Part of my brain still is, I don't know if it's because I already believe or if it's that almost protective part of my brain where I'm like, it's fine, but I was reacting and I was shocked, but then it's 5 minutes later, I'm talking about, anything else, right? The football chat that you said, stop the football chat.
Cut the football chat. That's what my dad says.
Cut the football chat. So, but then we're like, wait, okay, that was crazy. Let's try to see it again, and you're giving us your tips about, just so manifesty, right? Be grateful, say thank you, create this open channel of communication.
Send your thoughts to the sky, connect with it.
High vibration, and being grateful is almost giving thanks for what hasn't happened yet, right? So then we see the same thing again, you know, slightly different pattern, but like same place, red lights, and, you know,
Same behavior.
A couple approaches. They're like, did you see that? We called the Coast Guard. You know, it was very profound. And then, you know, not long after that, we see a couple other things. A white light very close to us, just shooting kind of down from the sky. We see what may have been twin helicopters, you know, like flying.
I got that on video.
That was nuts, like coming closer to us, very unsure what it was. It kind of looked like a disc. It was crazy. And, you know, at first I was a little scared when I saw that thing like approaching us.
It's natural.
But then, you know, it went away, and, you know, we were all in such good spirits, and I was like, I believe in being, you know, guided and protected. And I can feel the energy here is good. You know, we're all having a great time, and we feel positive, and we're feeling like the love, and we're feeling happiness. So I don't think that this could be anything nefarious, right? So yeah, that was a pretty profound night. I mean, there were some really crazy things. The craziest things I've ever seen in the sky.
Yeah, same.
And that's nuts too, to experience it with you.
That's
like
why
a seer of so many things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it was so mind-blowing to me, because I was like, they're seeing this with me.
Yeah.
The implications of that are profound.
Right.
Because first of all, that shows me that you and Chris are two very special people who are, for some reason, we're meant to be in each other's lives.
Maybe we were like a little family in a past life.
I 100% believe it.
Yeah.
I do.
Maybe I was the dad, you guys.
I was going to say, maybe we were sisters. I want to be the big sister. But, you know, I do believe it. And it was just so profound for me, because the implications of, like, just for example, you know, think about Chris, how he has spent his whole life, like, being obsessed with UFOs. And I'm just so grateful that we got to give him the opportunity to finally, with firsthand experience, like, see behind the veil of, you know, the secret, the subject, in a way that is completely undeniable. And I felt like in a way it was a gift from the universe to him, to all of us, but I'm going to go down the line. A gift to him, because he's been seeking this. He's a good person. He has good intentions. He's on this path of truth and trying to, you know, follow his heart and his gut about what he thinks he should follow. And this content is about, you know, UFOs, disclosure, which is basically the truth. You know, it's like, what's the big secret out there, right?
Yeah.
It boils down to that. And then for you, because I guess in some way, maybe this is just me speaking out of my head here, and you could tell me if it makes any sense or not, but in some way, maybe there is something that you've been seeking. It has probably nothing to do with UFOs, because I remember meeting you and you're like, oh, cool, I'm not really into UFOs, but cool, yeah. And you're seeing and you're like, oh, cool, this is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, don't be scared. Yeah. Because you never heard of me. I'm like, don't be scared. Remember? I'm like, do not be scared. You go lay in your bed tonight and you be comfortable, and you just do not be scared. And then lo and behold, a few people had entities in the room.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I can't help but feel like that was my fault.
No.
But do you remember that? There were some entities in people's room after we skywatched the first night.
I woke up one night to like a what sounded like very loud snapping noise. And as soon as I opened my eyes, it was gone. And I just felt things.
So I do apologize about telling you not to be scared, and then you got scared. But I feel like you've been seeking something.
Yeah, I'm a seeker.
Yeah, and forget the UFO thing. You just saw visual evidence of the divine.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're manifesting, it's like you're manipulating the matrix, right? You're seeing signs. You're seeing glitches in the matrix. It's like when Neo, have you ever seen the Matrix?
I have.
You know, he sees the cat go by twice. And it's like, oh my God, it's a glitch. But, you know, it's different when you see a shining divine being of light.
Yeah, and the fact that you call it a shining divine being of light is a total paradigm shift for me that I didn't have until I met you.
Right.
You know, because I had, you know, heard the fearful propaganda about,
Yeah.
these UAPs and stuff. And I'd been interested in them and had thought, okay, I feel like this is a benevolent thing, but the spiritual, divine aspect, I didn't integrate until meeting you, hearing about your story, then reading your dad's book. And that's a huge shift for me. And that aligns so much with what I believe, And I think when we're on this path, like, we look for proof. We look for proof of the divine, that we're not alone, that we're heard, that we're loved, that we're taken care of. And it's like both of us kind of see it in different ways for ourselves, which is so interesting. So to like see it from your way was really, really, really special.
Yeah.
I won't forget that evening.
It's impossible to forget that
evening. Mm-hmm.
But you're going to be changed forever from that. Mm-hmm. And it's only been 2 days. In the same way you're changed from Monroe.
Yeah.
I'm changed from that. Because think about my perspective. Do you know how many recurring dreams I have had since I was a child? That I have crowds with me and I'm like, look up, and there's something there. It's one of my biggest recurring dreams. Having people around me, I told you it's real. I told you it's real. It's like right there.
Feeling validated, it sounds like.
And just like, there's been many other people I've seen things with. Many. But what they typically see is that little white light that you're like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. But what you saw was so bizarre. It was so eldritch. That's one of my favorite words. You know what eldritch means?
No.
Eldritch means it's something so cosmic and you could say like, quote, horrifying. It baffles the brain. It can't process what it's seeing. It's, it looks like it comes from another reality that our brain is not wired to accept what it appears to be. It's based on H.P. Lovecraft, which is one of the most famous horror authors ever, and he writes about these cosmic entities. And so I think eldritch, what we saw was eldritch. I was looking at this like, wow, this is definitely top 3 like sightings I've ever had in my life, and I've seen thousands of things.
Wow.
So the implication in my mind of what was happening was like not only a gift to you and Chris, and a gift to Casey for her birthday. That's pretty powerful. Oh wow, this is crazy on my birthday. And obviously to Nick and to Randy, and to my wife Jenny. I mean, we're all having this amazing gift, but it was a gift to me.
Yeah. That
you guys came and visited and got to see this with me.
A huge sign to me that this was just meant to be.
Yeah.
Just meant to be.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at starting this whole conversation, was like, sometimes I can't deny that things feel predestined.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's also one of the ways that the universe communicates with us, is when it sends us those synchronicities and those like skin tingling moments where we're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, or like those coincidences. So yeah, I'm completely in alignment that was meant to happen with us all together. And I feel like it was like a little wink from the universe being like, there's some special, connection that you guys have. And, I'm celebrating you guys coming together.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also like predicated by moon alignments, and star alignments, and eclipses and solstices and equinoxes. Probably tomorrow is the equinox. It's a little weird. It just gets a little freaky, doesn't it? I mean,
but how much fun is it to live life like that?
Oh,
right?
It's the best.
Like, it's way more fun. And I think that's why, like, we love our brains love looking for patterns and love finding meaning, right, about things. But it's also just freaking fun. And I feel like life should be fun. Manifesting should be fun. This path should be fun. I'm not saying it's fun all the time, but when we're having fun and we're feeling joyful and like we're getting these winks, and these blinks, from the universe, I think it's just a reminder that like joy is a really high energy, high vibration energy,
and gratitude.
And when we're joyful, we're, I think, very magnetic.
Yeah.
To the things that we want. And like we were on the beach the other night, we were in such a place of joy. We were in such a place of joy, and look what we manifested.
We were like screaming, like, what is that? Yeah. You know what? The good thing is that Chris brought his camera and was recording, even though he didn't get the full thing, I'll just say craft, like the big one, the first one, even though he didn't get it fully on camera, he got all the audio of us seeing it. Because he was vlogging his own face saying, I just saw several orbs. I'm out here with my friend Ryan, yada, yada, yada. I saw a white light, a blue light. And then his face goes, you see it on video. Because I think it was Casey. The video will tell, but I think it was Casey. Was going, what is that? What is that? And his face goes, and he's in shock. It was priceless, dude. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. Yeah, he looked like he was seeing a UFO.
Yeah, I mean, right. It's like your brain can hardly comprehend it. It's so outside the norm.
And he's the magician.
Right.
He's the one doing this to people.
Right.
And keeping his cool and doing the tricks.
Maybe that's why he freaked out so much. Because I was like, whoa, that is crazy. You know, and he was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just freaking out, man. And then he turned the camera. It was really cinematic, too. It felt like found footage. Like a found footage horror film. Like when you watch the footage, it's kind of cool, dude. Like he whips the Osmo around, which is the little gimbal camera. He has the same camera as me, the same Osmo. He whips it around. You triple tap it, and it turns around on the gimbal. And by the time the camera locked into where the craft was, it had reduced from like 9 lights to 1, and then it blinks out. So you see like half a second of the orange light, and it blinks out. And that's what he got on camera. Meanwhile, we're all like, what the hell was that? And then he filmed the entire, the next one. So the footage will tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Epic.
Oh my God.
Epic.
I'm so glad we got to experience that together.
I'm so grateful.
Let me run through, because I think there was a couple things I wanted to hit on.
Yeah.
One thing I was, okay, I have to ask. So naturally, you're already a very spiritual person before you went to Monroe, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of why they invited us,
yeah,
because we're like spiritual content creators.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel like going there and having the gateway experience and just the magical week that we had? How do you feel like it's changed you?
Great question. I reevaluated my whole life after Monroe, which they say is normal. But I was just looking at all of the identities that I hold in life, like all of these like 3D identities, and just thinking about like, do I want these things? You know, why did I make these choices? It was a bit depersonalizing, I gotta say, because when I had my out-of-body experience, it took me a while to integrate fully back into my body. Like, talk about energy and energy bubbles. Like, my energy was like about a foot outside my body after my out-of-body experience for like the rest of the day. And so when I got back home, I felt like very depersonalized to my life a bit, because I had experienced this expansiveness, this infiniteness of my soul. And then it's like my soul kind of had to come back into this life that I've created. And that was tough. You know, I was like, I wasn't needing a lot of sleep. I wasn't needing to eat a lot.
Same, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the energy was really flowing. I felt
best sleep I'd had in years after Monroe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I was feeling a lot of sensual energy unlocked too, which was very surprising, which they also say is a side effect of the meditations, because you're just like unlocking energy and moving energy.
I intentionally left that one out, but you heard it from her.
Yeah.
Alex is smiling.
Notice I said sensual. There are other words I could have used, but I'm trying to be tactful.
You did great.
Thank you. But I think, having that out-of-body experience, like learning that I really am more than my physical body, which I knew but hadn't necessarily viscerally experienced it. It was so profound. It was, like I said, just one of the most ecstatically blissful couple moments of my life. And it changed everything in the sense that feeling that I talked about at the beginning of like remembering my soul, remembering manifestation, instant manifestation, how that is kind of our true nature, and then experiencing that in my out-of-body experience, like going to Paris, instantly, and feeling so much joy, and then feeling this separation too from my physical body and my soul, because in my out-of-body experience right before it happened, I very clearly felt or heard this sentence, which was, "She's ready, let's go." And it was this giddiness, this excitement from like my higher self of like, let's pop her out of the body. She's ready. Yeah. She's relaxed, or, the frequencies are like pop. popped right out of the body. And it was like this glee from whoever that being that was me, or bigger me, or more me, that just blew my mind. I came back into my body and started laughing and crying and just, being in complete disbelief. So feeling that was incredible. To me, that was like proof of what I believe, manifestation is, that gratification, and that our ability to do so and create the lives that we want. And then, recognizing all this potent life force energy that is, infinite inside of me, and feeling it flowing and learning how to use it and harness it. And, just another experience that my energy is infinite. My life is infinite. Like, I am infinite. I can experience everything. So coming back, into my life, that felt a bit like living in a simulation. Like, the first couple days I was like,
yeah,
this just feels like a movie. Like, where am I, But then I really started to just feel gratitude. And I had to have some hard conversations with people around me too about the ways that I had changed. And going back to that idea of truth being a really high frequency, I just started sharing my truth, and I was like, I don't want to be ashamed of what this program has unlocked in me and revealed to me, and I want to be seen in my fullness and who I am. And there's so much beauty on the other side of a hard but truthful conversation. And so I also felt like another truth that was revealed to me was separation of my ego desires and my soul desires after Monroe. There were projects that I'd been pursuing, and then projects I'd been uncertain about prior to Monroe that just became very, very clear which ones were my soul's path and which ones were just my ego. Mm-hmm. And that clarification, whoa, so important. Like, things I was trying to force to happen, things that I was having dread doing that like my soul already knew didn't really want to do, just became startlingly clear after that. So that was a huge, huge gift, something that shifted for me after the program.
I was devastated coming home.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I would never feel like that again.
Yeah, I felt the same.
And I can honestly tell you, it's not true.
Yeah.
And this week is an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Alex's wedding felt magical and amazing. I mean, maybe because I was the officiant too, and I was a part of. It's a spiritual thing, Yeah. They asked me to make it spiritual, and I'm like,
sounds like you set the tone.
Wrote the.
I had a guest who was a +1 who had never met any of us. Told me that they cried.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's amazing, but probably because you guys were crying.
But
maybe it's all of it.
No, it's all of it, man. It just speaks to the energy that was present. Yeah, that's beautiful.
His wedding was an amazing day. Like, it was a big, powerful energy. Mm-hmm. And there's been several other things, but like our week together, and I feel like that you can always find these little moments where you remember how it was, and like you can recreate that feeling. It might not be, this magical 6-day retreat, summer camp, all these other content creators like it was, but I do think that we do have the potential to find that magic even in our daily life if we just allow ourselves to. And I was so scared coming home, and I cried for days, which is normal. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
After having these intense spiritual breakthroughs and leaving your body over and over, and then you come home and you're just like slammed back into ordinary life. Yep. And it's like every time I thought about Monroe, it's just like I couldn't stop crying. I was like, I'm never going to have that experience again. I'm never going to have that experience again. And that wears off. Mm-hmm. You start to feel a little normal again. Mm-hmm. But you're changed forever.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so I was, pretty devastated coming back from Monroe, but I feel like it gets better, and I have kind of like found that the practices that I learned there I can use in my daily life.
Absolutely.
And like, you know, the visualization techniques and you know, the meditation techniques and how easy it is to, for some reason, I just really like Focus 12, you know, so how easy it is to recall Focus 12. And I'm definitely changed forever. And, you know, it's an amazing experience. And I'm glad we got to go together.
So grateful.
I'm glad we got to, you know, meet this wonderful family. And I feel like, you know, maybe someday we'll be back together.
I think we will be back. I'm trusting in the unfoldment of our journey together, and I wouldn't be surprised if it brings us back to Monroe. And even just these past couple of days with you have been so much fun, and I'm just so grateful that we've met and that I've gotten to be part of your life.
Likewise. And I have to say, you are a very good speaker.
Thank you.
So I can only imagine you're a very good writer.
Thanks.
For those out there looking for a book to read, looking for some magazines to catch up on, looking for a podcast to listen to.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I also get the sense that you are a very deep thinker.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I think, you know, you talk about like it's always nice to see men who talk more about manifestation. I think it's really nice to talk like deep philosophy and spiritual subjects with women too. Like from my perspective, it's not something that I typically get to engage in. So it's like, it's really nice to meet people from all backgrounds and different, you know, manifestation, astrology. I don't think we had any astrologers there, but I've met a lot through the show and, you know, just, it's amazing. I feel like I'm living the dream.
There are so many gifts on the spiritual path. Like we've both been pursuing a spiritual path. We've both received so many blessings from it. And it just makes you want to keep going. Yeah. Right? And I don't ever feel like I'm going to be done. And I like that. I don't want to be done. But I did feel like on our retreat, I've been on so many retreats. They're always all women. Always.
Yeah.
And so to be around men was really awesome for me. At first, it was like a little bit strange to be, you know, on a retreat with all this masculine energy.
You kept saying that, and I was like,
but by the end of it, no, I loved it. By the end of it, I was like, oh, I love this because I feel like I get to be more in my feminine. It's like bringing out the polarity of my feminine energy. And also, I just want to say thank you for seeing me. I think we all just want to feel seen. And our wholeness, unless we're hiding things in the shadows, which of course we're always doing that a little bit too. But thank you for just reflecting that back to me. I think it's a gift sometimes. Like there's so much beauty we see in other people, but we don't always share it. And to say it just means a lot. So thank you. I received that.
Of course. And I'm just saying what I really mean and what I really feel. And you're awesome. And I appreciate you taking a detour. I mean, you've been away from your husband for like, what, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks at least? 3 weeks? Oh my God. And she hasn't even seen her husband in 3 weeks, been out of the country, and she swings through here to take time out of her busy life to do this with us. I mean, that's a big deal.
It is an honor and a pleasure.
Likewise. So let's let the audience know where they can find everything you've got going on.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So they can go to my website, hannahsummerhill.com, spelled how it sounds. And you can see all my writing clips there. You can also listen to my podcast, The Hannah Summerhill Show, where we talk about manifesting. We talk about spirituality and a little bit of pop culture because I love the 3D too, you know, and I grew up in magazines and media. And finally, I do a Manifestors Club. That's also on my website. So there's just a lot of fun offerings that I have. And I love hearing about other people's manifestations. So DM me. I'm Hannah Summerhill on Instagram. And yeah, that's where they can find me.
She was telling me some testimonials earlier because you do take clients, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. I have private one-on-one clients and I also have courses.
Right.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't have to go into your private, you know, testimonials from clients, but they're pretty outstanding.
No, they're insane in the best way. Yeah.
So if you guys want, you know, an amazing manifestation teacher, please, you know, check her out. Go sign up for her courses or, you know, see if she can consult you one-on-one or, you know, just do whatever you can to help her out. She's an amazing person. And
thank you.
You know, we're kind of like a tribe, you know, and I don't know if you've picked up on this because you're still like new to our show, but do you realize we also talk like pop culture stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. We like to do like esotericism and, you know, this movie or this.
Yes. I did notice that. Yeah. You guys like did a movie review recently.
We do them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
We're like, you know, two sides of the same coin there.
I know. We have so much in common.
Right?
We do.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Do you know how we end the show? The bye, guys?
No, I don't.
It's like we just say bye, guys. It's not special. It's
Oh.
not profound. It's just something we started doing about 2 or 2.5 years ago, or maybe more like the second episode. I don't even know anymore, but we just always do it. And it's, so you ready?
We just look. And should I just say bye, guys?
Literally, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
What up, homies?
If you like the show and want more, check out patreon.com/Bledsoe said so.
This will get you exclusive weekly bonus shows and access to our Discord community with hundreds of open-minded people just like you.
If you want to represent the show, go to bledsoesaidso.com for merch. We have t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and more.
For all future updates, follow us on Instagram at Bledsoe Said So.
Same time next week.